Today I'm going to rank all 19 reinforcements in Star Wars Battlefront 2. And this list is probably going to be kind of controversial because it's based on my personal preference of what reinforcements I enjoy playing as. It's not necessarily which ones are best for you, which ones are more powerful. It's just what I like. But regardless of that, I hope you enjoy. Please let me know your ranking down in the comments and also what you completely disagree with about mine. And if this video gets, say, I don't know, 1 million likes, I'll consider also ranking all of the heroes. Subscribe. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. We start things off in 19th place with the Ewok Hunter. In my opinion, the Ewok Hunter is the most useless reinforcement in the game, and every time I spawn as the Ewok, I honestly feel like it's just a meme. Maybe this is a little harsh because you can definitely rack up kills with the Ewok, especially because he's so small. You can hide in the shadows. The Ewok Hunter also has auto aim, and the Wisties also deal quite a bit of damage. But if you're in a 1v1 with pretty much any other reinforcement in the game, I think the Ewok loses, which is why I've put them in 19th place. Also, I'm probably just bitter towards the Ewoks because of the amount of horror and nightmares I've experienced while playing Ewok Hunt. Not only is the game... No! In number 18, I've put the B2 rocket droid. In my opinion, the B2 is the weakest of all of the rocket and aerial troopers, and in my opinion, just feels like the least maneuverable of them all. I also think he has the worst rocket of all of them, using a wrist rocket, which doesn't feel like it does the same amount of damage as other rocket troopers, even though the stats on the Battlefront fandom website are the same. And yes, even though the B2 rocket trooper also has the automatic twin wrist blaster, in my opinion, he feels clunkier to use than the other aerial troopers, therefore I've put him in 18th. Oh my god. In number 17, we have the Resistance's Kfex Spy. The Kfex Spy is one of those troopers that I feel can do really well in certain situations, but then just get completely owned in others. For example, here on Crate, I was having a really good time as the Kfex Spy, waiting for enemy troopers to get near me, and then was also using the Scanner Beacon Orbital Strike to deal damage on the walkers. Their truncheon melee attack I also don't think has great range, and also kind of requires you to chain together multiple attacks to get the kill. And their rapid fire ability really doesn't last that long and also has terrible range. The Kfex Spy is probably my least used reinforcement in the game, and I think the reason I put the Kfex Spy above the B2 rocket droid and Ewok Hunter is basically just because they are the only character in the game that can deploy something close to an orbital strike, which I missed from Battlefront 2015. Next up, in 16th place, I have the Wookiee Warrior. Now remember, the Wookiee is a reinforcement for both the Galactic Republic and the Rebel Alliance. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the Bowcaster. Again, in certain situations, I feel like it can deal a lot of damage, but you kind of need to use the Overload ability to make it effective. Otherwise, you kind of just spraying shots all over the place, the rate of fire is slow, and there are other weapons in the game that are much more powerful. Thermal Imploder, incredible, my favorite grenade in all of Star Wars. And the Wookiee Slam ability is probably the most Wookiee thing ever, but there are times I feel like using this can also make you quite vulnerable, as it's only really effective on enemies at short range. I honestly wish the Wookiee was a bit more powerful, or maybe just had even more health, because then in some way they'd feel more like a Wookiee. And I also wish we had the ability to rip off Stormtroopers' arms just like in LEGO Star Wars. So recently I've been sleeping really well, and a lot of that is due to Manta Sleep, the sponsor of today's video. They make these masks which make sleeping just so much easier. They're super comfy to wear, highly adjustable, and completely block out pretty much all light. They sent me 2 versions which I've been using for the past few months because they wanted me to try the product before I actually talked about it. Genuinely really good. This is the Manta Mask Sleep Pro, and then I have another version called the Manta Mask Sleep Sound, which connects to any Bluetooth device and has inbuilt speakers so you can fall asleep listening to podcasts, music, whatever you want. Rainforest, the sounds of the Geonosian War. Right from the front of this as well, you can connect to the Bluetooth, turn it on and off, adjust the volume. You can even move where the headphone is. They feel really high quality, and if you use my code Bombastic, you can also get 10% off. My eyes are completely open right now and I can't see a thing. Also, because I spent a lot of time on the computer working, gaming, editing, making thumbnails, these just feel like they give my eyes a great rest. It's so calming and soothing, and I feel like my eyes are resting and not turning into Sith eyes. Dark Lord of the Sith eyes. Click the link in the description, and a huge thanks to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video and also just helping me sleep better. In 15th place, I have the First Order Flame Trooper. Now, once again, the Flame Trooper I feel like can be super dominant in certain situations, but then get absolutely destroyed in others. It's a very situational kind of reinforcement. The Incendiary Grenade can be lots of fun, even for just using it as cover, as kind of like a smoke grenade, so enemies don't run through there. The Fortify ability is great for getting a bonus bit of health, and when attacking a very tight objective, Overload is just a joke. Like, you can just light everyone on fire. Like Jango Fett in Star Wars Bounty Hunter. But all of that said, the range of the flamethrower is quite short, meaning it's only good in more indoor areas. And the Alt Fire, I found very few instances of where this comes in handy. The range on that is so ridiculously short that arcing a flame really isn't that effective. You may as well just run there and try and flank around. But having the First Order Flame Trooper in Battlefront 2 also makes me want a clone Flame Trooper, just like the Geonosian Cockroach Exterminator squad. But it's a good thing we have mods for that, for all you PC players out there. In 14th place, we have the B2 Super Battle Droid. Now, the B2 has one of the best, if not the best, rate of fire in Battlefront 2, especially when using the Overload ability. In short to mid-range combat, these guys can absolutely tear through the enemy team. The wrist rocket can come in handy, but you really need to be quite accurate with it, as it has very little splash damage. And having the Fortify ability to boost health makes these guys incredibly powerful in the right situation. At long range, I personally don't find them very effective, and they are also kind of a heavier, tankier class. So they don't move around the battlefront as agile as other reinforcements or characters. But honestly, the B2s feel just as they do in the movies. And that's part of what I think makes them really fun to play as, but just make sure you always watch those wrist rockets. In 13th place, we have the Republic Jet Trooper. Aerial classes in Battlefront 2 I think can be ridiculously OP, and there's so many times where I've been frustrated by one of these guys. Even though they arguably have one of the weaker blasters in the DC-17 and aren't as powerful as some of the other more automatic weapons used by the other aerials, the Republic Jet Troopers are agile, fast, and the rocket launcher can just be a joke to play against or to play with as well, and can also be used to take down vehicles, starfighters, and play the objective. I also just think they look kind of cool. Next up, in 12th place, we have the ISB agent. Now, she is kind of like a mix between the Sith Trooper and the ARC Trooper. She's quick, agile, has some of the game's best melee abilities, but also has the dual blasters and the secondary fire, which can be ridiculously OP. Also, if you get a kill with her kicks, you replenish some of your health. Pretty cool, especially considering the range her kicks have. She got some long legs. The Imperial Intel ability, which reveals enemies on the map, I think is also really useful, especially when combining this with assault training, which makes the ISB agent sprint faster and also gain damage reduction. So you can literally just scan the area, see an enemy, sprint around the corner, and kick them to death. She can also heal nearby teammates with her double your effort ability, and when you think about it, is really kind of a great all-rounder class. Maybe I should have put her higher on the list. Oh well. In number 11 on the list, we have the Rebel Rocket Trooper. Now, I really love their blaster, the A280C. I think it's one of the better ones of all of the Rocket Troopers, especially considering rate of fire, the range you can get with this thing, but also its effectiveness in close quarters. Pretty decent. Just like the other Jet Troopers, their rocket launcher can be incredibly effective. And the trick with using Jet Troopers is to just be constantly moving, constantly zipping around, jetting around so that no one can hit you. And if you do that and do it effectively, you can absolutely dominate. Similarly to the Imperial Rocket Trooper, who I placed at number 10. Honestly, not much difference for me between these two. They have the E11 instead of the A280C, but everything else is pretty much the same. I just put them higher on the list because I really like their armor. I think it looks really cool with the tube piping that comes out of their helmet, and I think their look is based on the appearance they made in Star Wars Rebels, so I thought that's kind of cool, and here they are in 10th place. At number 9, we have the Avician Gunner. These guys are basically Arnold from Terminator 2, except they look a lot more like the Predator than Arnold.
Stop whining.
Their Z6B rotary cannon can be ridiculously powerful, especially when you're looking down a corridor or defending an objective. You can kind of just stand there holding down L2 or the aim button. The thing will keep spinning, and as soon as you see an enemy, you'll just light them up. And it also has the anti-armor mode, which can be incredibly effective against vehicles. My only complaint with these guys is that it does take quite a while to switch the firing mode of these, and the weapon does have, I think, a slightly longer cooldown than others. But the fact their middle ability, defensive stance, cools the rotary cannon, and doing damage with it while this is active also replenishes your health as well as those of allies is pretty cool. Their charge ability, I've never really found that useful, to be honest. It's kind of another one of those meme abilities. It's kind of like Han Solo's charge. If you know what you're doing, it can be effective, but if you don't, you can run into some serious trouble. Another one of those reinforcements that I think, though, is quite situational. In the right environment, these guys own, but you can also end up making a complete fool of yourself playing as this, which is generally what I do most of the time. I see. Why am I frozen? In number 8, we have the Clone Commando. Now, I honestly thought I'd put the Clone Commando higher just because I think they're such a badass. When they added Clone Commandos to Battlefront 2, I was like, man, this game is so good. I'm geeking out over the Clone Commandos for sure. But part of the reason I think I don't rank them higher is because I feel they're quite nerfed at range. Honestly, the Clone Commandos are better at short to kind of mid-range. Even mid is stretching it though. If I see an enemy kind of up on a ridge or a bit further off, I almost don't want to engage until I get a little bit closer, just because I know that the Clone Commando's blaster has a significant drop-off in damage. The DC-17M repeating blaster rifle is also one of the most unique in the game in that it doesn't have a cooldown. It's a reload weapon. And I also think the repulsor blast needs to have a bit more range for it to be effective. It's so rare that I use this, and again, it's super situational. I would much prefer they replace this with a sniper attachment so that you can actually use the Clone Commando at long range, and maybe just don't make the sniper as powerful as others. The anti-armor attachment can absolutely own both infantry and tanks and vehicles. Battle Focus is great for replenishing health, and how can we forget about the Vibro Blade? The fact Clone Commandos can stab droids just out of nowhere, right from their wrist, I think is just so much fun. And they're super fun to play as. You feel like a commando, and I think that's the best part about them. But seriously, when are we getting Republic Commando 2?
It's been 84 years.
In number 7, we have the Sith Trooper. I think the Sith Trooper can be one of the most agile and versatile classes in the game, especially at mid-range. While they're not necessarily great at taking out heaps of enemies around one objective, the fact they can sprint faster using Combat Rush and also combined with secret tactics to reveal nearby enemies and their rate of fire on their medium-range blaster makes the Sith Trooper incredibly powerful. At range, you can also use the Quarrel Blast, which you do need to be quite accurate with, but can be extremely effective at taking out enemies who are further away, especially considering it's basically 4 shots in one. I personally find their oppression grenade pretty decent as well, especially considering it blocks enemies' abilities to recover health for a short period of time, meaning you can throw that in there, activate seeker tactics to figure out where they all are, and then just go shoot them all up while they're still recovering health from the grenade. Overall, the Sith Trooper is incredibly agile, have a great all-rounder blaster, and I mean, they're painted red, guys. The Sith Trooper is like the Ferrari of all stormtroopers. Alright guys, I feel like this next one is going to be one of my controversial picks. At number 6, we've got the Resistance Rocket Jumper. And the reason for this, even though she's basically the same as the Imperial and Rebel Rocket Jumper, is because I think I just prefer her blaster. It just feels slightly different to the 2 others. And when I was streaming the other day, I feel like I went on a ridiculous kill streak with her that I've never achieved with any other rocket trooper. Sometimes it's just a feeling, guys. Sometimes you're just feeling it. You're feeling what's different about one class, and so you stick with it, and then you put them in 6th place on a list that thousands of people are going to see. I would love for you to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments, please.
You're a moron and a coward.
All right, here we go, guys. Top 5. You ready? At number 5, we have the BX Commando Droid. I was honestly never the biggest fan of the Commando Droid because I always preferred playing as, say, the Droideka or the B2 Battle Droid. But recently, the Commando Droid has really grown on me. Even though I'm not personally great at using their Vibro Sword to dash around the battlefront and slice up enemies, their smokescreen combined with thermal vision is incredibly OP. Throwing down a smokescreen so that the enemy can't see you and then activating thermal vision so you can see all of them, and then using the E5 blaster to just shoot them all, destroy them all, is such a satisfying feeling. Also, anytime you're in trouble with one of these, people are coming after you, you can kind of just dash your way out of trouble. They're so quick and agile, and the fact their dash is different to every other characters in the game, I think makes them really unique, and it's part of why I've got them so high on the list. I also know that players who are really good at using these commando droids can almost just play them as a melee class, go dashing around the battlefront, just killing people with the sword. And also just realize when you're inside the smoke screen and you defeat an enemy, you get bonus score. Come on. Do you guys know that old Call of Duty ability called Commando Pro, where you basically stab someone who's like 10 meters away? That's what these guys are. What's that? Oh, you couldn't understand. Sorry. At number 4, we have the Death Trooper. Some of you OGs might remember that the Death Troopers were hero bodyguards for Director Krennic in 2015 Star Wars Battlefront, and it was so cool when they finally returned to Battlefront 2, even though that was now years ago as well. Their E11D blaster rifle, I find, can be extremely effective at mid to close to even some long range, and when combined with the overload ability, you can absolutely tear through an enemy team, especially when they're all huddled around one objective. I personally find them extremely useful in supremacy, taking objectives, going around. Even if you get shot at, you just use the fortify ability, gain extra health, everything's fine. The Sonic Imploder is possibly my other favorite grenade, apart from the Thermal Imploder. I just honestly like the sound it makes. And also the effect of seeing it zoom. And even though it doesn't deal a heap of damage, it can be great for throwing to an area of enemies, blurring their vision, and then you just go in there and defeat them all. These guys are buff, tanky, they feel like Death Troopers. You feel like you're in Rogue One when you're playing as one of these, and I think that's a huge credit to the developers getting the feel of the Death Troopers right. At number 3, we have the First Order Jet Trooper. Easily the best jet trooper in the game. I think a lot of people will agree they have the best jetpack. The fact they can literally hover in the air and keep the high ground, I mean, come on. And when you combine that with their alternate fire, the tri-barrel launcher, and the splash damage that thing has, you can absolutely dominate. All you have to do is get the trajectory right of the arc that the barrel launcher shoots at, and then you're totally fine to absolutely dominate. Their main blaster also ain't so bad, but yeah, honestly, the reason they're just so high is largely just due to their jetpack abilities. They can also fly higher than any other character in the game, literally just flying up, hovering above the battlefront, and raining down terror from above. They definitely can be quite situational at times and aren't as zippy as some of the other jet troopers, but I'd still personally prefer to have this kind of jet trooper than the others. And the fun you can have with these guys, especially when you get on a good streak, can be seemingly endless. I mean, it seems like they fly now.
They fly now?
All right, guys, top 2, here we go. What order are they going to be in? At number 2, I have the ARC Trooper. Oh boy, controversial for a number of reasons. For one reason, I'm sure a lot of you have the ARC Trooper as your number 1, but number 2, a lot of people hate the ARC Trooper, and largely just because of their secondary fire, which can be absolutely ridiculously OP. It's the most broken thing potentially in Battlefront 2, but when you're using it, you can just have so much fun. It's basically like a sniper rifle you don't have to aim, that also deals splash damage that you can shoot from hundreds of meters away, and there's no damage drop off. It literally homes towards targets. You aim in the general direction of a target that you think, hey, maybe that's an enemy, fire this thing off, and in a couple shots, you'll likely get the kill. The rate of fire is also ridiculous. I think the way they could fix this is to make it a longer cooldown, to not let you just fire 2 shots at once and actually get a kill. It can also deal damage to vehicles. You can deal damage to starfighters. And I also personally really like the dual DC-17, especially when toggled to the faster firing mode. At short range, these things can absolutely clean up. You got the helmet scanner to reveal enemies around a corner. It's basically the perfect short range and long range class. You're basically playing as a short range minigun as well as an auto aiming sniper. Not to mention the shock trap, which can electrocute nearby enemies when you're trying to hold down a position. I'd love to know if you either love or hate the ARC Trooper. Please let me know in the comments. But for now, my number 1 favorite reinforcement in Battlefront 2 is the Droideka.
Where are those Droideka?
Here they are at number 1. Now, I've put the Droideka at number 1, not necessarily because they're the best reinforcement to use in the game, but simply because I personally find them the most fun. And I also think they're in the wrong class of reinforcement. The Droideka is technically an enforcer, but I think they're much better used as an infiltrator. I don't think the Droideka is great at holding down a position. The shield isn't actually that powerful, and you're so vulnerable when it's not equipped and when you're in firing mode unfolded that you don't really have the same kind of health abilities as the other Enforcer classes, but the Droideker is perfect as an infiltrator. Easily the fastest character in the game, basically able to flank around any position on the battlefront, and perfect for getting in behind enemy lines, unfolding, shooting a trooper, and then folding back up and rolling away. They're also great in the final stage of supremacy in the capital ships for trying to get up and around the enemies and just get to the objective and deal damage. Also, when they're rolling, because they move so quickly, they're quite difficult to hit. So you can kind of get out of a lot of tricky situations quickly if you fold up fast enough, but that's really their only downside in my opinion. It does take them a while to kind of uncoil and then refold up into the rolly mode. They're also really not that great at range. I really wish that the twin blaster cannons had a much less significant damage drop-off, because you don't really feel like you can use these at any kind of range, and it'd be great if the shield was a bit more powerful. I mean, remember how powerful they were in the original Battlefront 2 from 2005? Anytime a droideker rolled up next to you, it was a big problem. Whereas in this Battlefront 2, it really doesn't feel like that's the case. Their overload ability at short range can absolutely devastate enemies, and just their movement and mobility makes them my favorite reinforcement in Battlefront 2. But I'd love to know what yours is, so please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and let me know if you want to see heroes ranked as well. And I recently went and found some of the best Easter eggs in Battlefront 2, and some of these I'm sure you haven't seen, so go watch that video if you haven't already. I'll link that here. Also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, join my Discord and TikTok for more Star Wars, more Battlefront, more me. And thanks for watching this. Always remember,
stay bombastic.